Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dirty Air. I'm your host, Alex Lambert, and let's talk about the Los Angeles Clash. I am blown away. I'm disappointed because I'm a Kyle Busch fan, but overall, I asked myself going into this race a couple of questions. Will this be a success by NASCAR, or will this be a failure by NASCAR, and will we return to the Clash in 2023? NASCAR can look at this race and say we 100% succeeded. This was an absolutely incredible weekend by NASCAR. They did a great job promoting the race. The race was great. It wasn't too long. It was fairly quick. The halftime show, which I think a lot of fans were a bit nervous about, was quick. The performances were great. The fans seemed to be into it. You heard the cheering from the fans. And overall, a very successful weekend by NASCAR and a great way to get NASCAR in the Los Angeles market, the biggest city in the United States, to get them out there in that market. Wow, NASCAR 100% a good job. Maybe NASCAR has had some failures in the past. This was not one of them. This was a 100% success. A lot of fans were in the stands today from LA. I believe they said reportedly about 70% of the fans that were in the Coliseum today were brand new fans, or at least brand new fans to attending NASCAR Cup races. So 70% of the people never been to a race before. I think they're satisfied. I was really excited about this. We had the Ice Cube performance. The fans seemed to be into that. I was a little bit nervous going into this race for one reason. I was worried that NASCAR was going to essentially be the sideshow of the weekend, and there were a few other people that were kind of skeptical as well. Is NASCAR going to promote too much of Pitbull and Ice Cube and some of the other celebrities there instead of the actual race itself? No. NASCAR did not do that at all. And Fox Sports, I got to give Fox Sports credit for this as well, because they had a huge role in this event, and of course playing this event on national television for a lot of people to watch. This race was on TV from 2 o'clock to 8 on national Fox all day long. That's huge for Fox and huge for NASCAR. But this was a success. NASCAR put all of the energy and all of the focus on their drivers and the event itself. When they interviewed a celebrity, they had Luke Bryan up there. Oh, no, I'm sorry, not Luke Bryan. They had Blake Shelton, basically the same person, right? They had Blake Shelton up in the booth for a little while. They had Olympic celebrities there. They had other sports celebrities there. You know, LA is great for having celebrities, right? A lot of celebrities live in LA, so why not send them over to the LA Coliseum race? Or maybe they just chose to attend themselves. But when they were interviewed on Fox before the race started, the main focus was on NASCAR. They asked questions about NASCAR. The famous person, the celebrity talked about NASCAR, talked about who they thought was going to win the race, and that was what was very important. Even Ice Cube during his halftime performance, when he was done, said, "Let's get back to the race." And One Nation, NASCAR. NASCAR was the brand of this event, which I think is kind of what was a bit skeptical. We were worried NASCAR was going to be the sideshow instead of the main event. No, NASCAR did a great job promoting this event and had a lot of eyes watching today. And I think I can't wait to see what the TV ratings are. I think a lot of people were watching. There was a lot of buzz about it. According to Colin Cowherd, who's in LA, he does his own talk show. He said there's a bit of a buzz around Los Angeles this week about the NASCAR race coming right in the middle of the city. So 100% a success by NASCAR. There's no doubt in my mind that this was a success. Even the drivers cared. NASCAR made the Clash important again, which is something the Clash has not had, maybe even ever. In its early days, it was a race that was running sometimes under 15 minutes. It was like a 25-lap shootout at Daytona. Just for the drivers to kind of go out there and try to win the race. Then it kind of became a testing session and a practice session for the drivers and the teams to learn about the cars at Daytona. Then they move it to the road course. Still not that big a deal. It's at Daytona, but it's still, the road course. It's just not that big a deal. That was last year. Then this year they moved to the Coliseum, do something completely different, and look what we got. A huge success by NASCAR. And you could tell the drivers cared. The drivers cared about winning this race more than I've ever seen before. Getting into the race was huge. Obviously, to show off your sponsor, be in the main event was big for these drivers. You saw Eric Almirola get upset at Todd Gilliland in one of the heat races because, he didn't make the race. The drivers even were talking about the pressure is on to get into the top four of their heat race so they can be in the main event. That was huge for these drivers. And some of these champion drivers didn't make it. Kurt Busch is a notable one that was not in the Clash after getting knocked out by the 42 car. All those things just made the atmosphere way more exciting. If you're going to have the Clash, it needs to at least be something that people care about. That includes the drivers, and that includes the fans, and NASCAR succeeded at that. If you don't have anybody that cares about the Clash like we have probably for the last 10 years or more, why would you even do it? So great job by NASCAR to promote this race and turn it into something important. Let's talk about the racing action itself. We had a fantastic finish. Unfortunately for Tyler Reddick, he was leading the race and had a mechanical failure. Apparently, he was maybe driving the race car a little too hard, and then the car did fail on him. We had a couple of other mechanical failures. Maybe we were a little bit nervous there. I got really nervous when I saw some of these cars dropping out of the race there all at once. We had Hamlin with the mechanical failure. Then right after that, we see 2 more cars drop out the race. And then, Chase Elliott kind of wheel hop, maybe uncontrollably. I was like, okay, don't tell me all the cars are going to fail before we get to the end of the race. That's not what happened. From what I heard, Chase Briscoe was reportedly the only driver, downshifting. I believe now NASCAR has 5 gears with the next-gen car, so I guess downshifting from 5th gear to 4th gear, then back up to 5th. He was reportedly the only driver doing that. Obviously, that was not a good idea. It wore the car out, maybe the transmission. And actually, Dave Moody actually made a great point on Twitter. I don't like to cite Dave Moody a whole lot. Nothing against him. He's not somebody I like to cite a whole lot, but he did make a good point. This is going to be a track that tests these next-gen cars mechanically more than any other track on the schedule. The only other track that's going to be even close to this, maybe Pocono, the road courses, and maybe Martinsville. But still, that's a whole nother level. A quarter-mile track where you're constantly having to slam on the brakes, get right back on the gas. Some drivers obviously downshifting. I think it's a success even for the cars. Obviously, you might need to look into these, especially if you're the teams. Look into how you can prevent this problem from happening again. Obviously, if you're Chase Briscoe, maybe you don't want to downshift again at certain tracks. Like when we go to Pocono, maybe some drivers downshift, some drivers don't. Maybe don't downshift to try to prevent a mechanical failure with these next-gen cars. All the teams are still learning. They're still trying to figure out everything that's going on. But another thing, look who the top finishers were. Typically, what we consider the best drivers, driver-wise in NASCAR, finished in the top. Joey Logano. I'm not a Joey Logano fan at all. I'm a Kyle Busch fan. I did not want to see Joey Logano win this race. But Logano was leading. He knocked Kyle Busch out the way there, got the lead. Kyle Busch tried to get to the bumper to him right at the end of the race, but just didn't have enough to get to him, wore the car out. Logano ends up winning. Kyle Busch ends up finishing second. And what a great battle, by the way, just between those two drivers. And even Kyle Larson could have been put in that battle conversation, because Kyle Larson was making dive bombs, trying everything he could on the last restart to get to him, but just couldn't quite get there. But just a good old school type classic race. I mean, the race wasn't too crazy in a sense, and it wasn't too boring in a sense. The whole race, especially as a Kyle Busch fan, and I'm sure a few of the Logano fans, the fans cheered Logano, by the way, which I was a bit surprised of. They cheered him hard and heavily, probably because he beat Kyle Busch. But, that's all. Kyle Busch got booed pretty heavily when he walked out, but that's okay. At least he's making noise, right? But Kyle Busch just trying to run down the 22 car. Watching that was incredibly exciting, and it was not a great race that was, decided by a caution. I believe we had a 30-something plus lap run to the finish. That's great. Obviously, you have great finishes with cautions, but for it not to be a caution, just to watch those two go at it was absolutely incredible and very exciting, which is exactly what NASCAR needed. Just a great race overall. Austin Dillon ended up finishing in the 3rd position. He was ramming his way through to get to the top, ramming his way through Eric Jones, ramming his way through Kyle Larson. Like I said, Eric Jones in the 4 car, like I said, had a little bit of a scuffle with Ryan Blaney. Obviously, Ryan Blaney was upset when he got out the car, threw some of his safety equipment. I believe it was the Hans device that he threw at Eric Jones. From what I heard, Ryan Blaney was, at least Eric Jones in his interview said that Ryan Blaney was brake checking him on the back straightaway. So I guess Eric Jones kind of said, okay, we'll fix this problem real quick, and kind of takes him out, took Blaney out the race. We know those young drivers are kind of friends with each other. But like I said, drivers cared about this race for the first time in a long time. They cared about the clash. We saw some driver emotions come out. We saw, Eric Almirola and Todd Gilliland go at it earlier. But Eric Jones ends up finishing 4th, but he was upset, obviously, that he was, didn't get the win. And obviously was getting brake checked, so he took out Ryan Blaney in the race. And Blaney was obviously very upset by throwing the Hans device at him. Yes, so definitely some driver emotion was showed there at the end of the race fight between Eric Jones and Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney was pretty pissed in his interview, but they both said it. It's just a clash. You can't move this over into the regular season. I think both of them will get over it pretty quick, but we'll have to see what happens. Kyle Larson finished 5th in today's race. Kyle Larson was one of those drivers that didn't. I would like to check and see where he started, actually, but he kind of ran his way up through the field on that final restart. I think it was the second to last restart, just runs through everybody trying to get to Kyle Busch and Joey Logano. Wasn't able to do so, and then kind of fell off as we went later on into the race with these longer green flag runs. I know 30 laps doesn't seem like a long green flag run. That's like 3 or 4 laps at Daytona, but still a fairly long green flag run at the end of the race. So Kyle Larson faded. Obviously, we saw Kyle Busch fade on the longer runs, and we saw a couple drivers excel on the longer runs. I look at Eric Jones, and I look at Joey Logano, who ended up winning the race, obviously. So that's big. Another thing, NASCAR in Los Angeles, will this continue to get people to watch from Los Angeles? I believe so. According to Adam Stern, Ben Kennedy says that the ticket sales, obviously we know Ben Kennedy has a little bit of insight on the ticket sales. He said that the ticket sales for the Fontana race weekend are thankfully trending pretty well, and he thinks the LA market can support multiple NASCAR races. That's interesting. Will we see some people from LA now after going to this event, exciting event, a very successful event? Will they go to maybe Phoenix or Las Vegas, or we have a lot of tracks on the West Coast, or Auto Club, which is not that far. You can actually see the same mountain from Auto Club. The mountain on the backstretch that you can see at Auto Club, that's the same mountain we saw at the LA Coliseum today. Just kind of the opposite sides of it. So I think we could have some fans to turn out. That's obviously was the point of this, to get people to return. NASCAR put all this effort on the star drivers. Did some fans get a favorite driver today, a new favorite driver? Did they become a Logano fan? I hope not. I hope nobody is. I hope we don't have any more Logano fans joining in, but it's definitely possible. Did we see some Kyle Busch fans? Did we gain some fans from him getting booed, potentially? We know some people are like that, including me. Austin Dillon dive bombing people. Eric Jones upset. Ryan Blaney throwing the Hans device. Obviously, we all know Kyle Larson's a great driver. Did we have some fans that were in attendance at the LA Coliseum become fans of a driver today? I think we potentially did, and I think we could potentially see that move over to some other races, especially on the West Coast here. And if fans like this, who says they won't watch on TV if it was their first event? So big event for them. NASCAR even said this is more of a show. This is an entertainment event. This isn't supposed to be a real race. That's why it's not for points. Not a real race. I don't like to say that, but this wasn't supposed to be a points-paying race for a huge event. But anyway, I'm excited no matter what. Daytona 500 is now coming up. The real next-gen car debut, at least for a regular season race, is coming up now, less than 2 weeks away, or I guess 2 weeks away from today. Obviously, very excited for the 2022 Daytona 500. Hope you guys watch me for that. I'll be on next week on Valentine's Day, actually. So guys, join in on Monday afternoon on Valentine's Day. I'll have a video up. I'm going to explain to you a couple interesting topics. Of course, that's it. That's all there's to talk about after a great LA Clash weekend. And of course, even though we lost, let's get rowdy.